Good day, folks. This is Bob from BBD. Geopolitical News and Views. It's been a while, about a week. Lots has happened, lots happening, a lot of perceptions, a lot of turmoil and thought processes, especially with the thin-skinned Indian Lutyens, Delhi, and opinion makers and policy makers, etc., for the delay in the United States with its aid. Hey, but as I said, der aaye durust aaye, but aa to gaye, right? The other is just this. I'd spoken about Afghanistan and the key players. We'd gone over Iran, and then there is the Middle East, and the other big player, which is obviously going to be Russia. Russia's in it only for, I think, to make a point of the finger to the West, right? But we should, and it's like basically they are paying them back for what the US did to the Russian forces when they were in destroying Afghanistan to start with in the first place. So what does the Wall Street Journal says? US may ease sanctions on Iran, glimmer of hope, and I believe that's a work in process. The Saudis seeing what's happening there, right? Says Saudi Iranian officials hold talks to patch up ties. That's going to probably become important. India, on the other hand, is playing a little bit of hardball with the Saudis. And remember, Saudis have come with a lot of aid with as far as oxygen is concerned. It says review oil import contracts with Saudi India to refiners, use bargaining powers to get better deals. But obviously the prices have come down because the second wave that's hit India, and that's going to have a major impact in demand of oil, right? But I'm not sure how far we're going to get with this, right? I don't think anybody's ever succeeded with OPEC to get them to reduce price. Only markets do, right? Then we have, what does Saudi Arabia says? Peace with Israel will benefit region, says Saudi Arabia. Obviously, we always knew, right, that the patch up that's happened between the Emirates and Israel had to have had a green light from Saudi Arabia. Otherwise, it just wasn't possible. That and Bahrain, right? Qatar already has a long association with Israel. And the latest also, the Qatar prince is also the leader, the king has also been invited to Saudi Arabia, has already been there for a patch up. So the region is coming to kind of recognize that the US is kind of moving out and they're on their own there, right? So they've got to make the best of it all, right? Syria seems to now, kind of cooling off because the Turks are not meddling that much, and neither the Russians, and that's always happens when all these, the outside actors move on. But the big problem now seems to be the Horn of America and Eritrea, right? Apparently somebody tells me, or I was reading in the foreign policy press, that could be a bigger, could make the problem in Syria look like a tea party, right? And the initial, like I said, there was obviously Biden was playing tough and hard with the Saudi Arabians. We called them out for the killing of that guy in Turkey, the journalist. But what he firmly did is Biden ends U.S. hand in Yemen war, and that was obviously pulling support away from Saudi Arabia. And Riyadh responds, and the public response in Saudi Arabia officials sidestep this. Well, I guess the Saudi Arabians are not getting the same treatment as they possibly did under Trump, and that is to be expected, right? Beyond this, as we go, we also have the other player who always gets his finger in. It's got his finger. It's in Afghanistan, right? Because it's held a peace talk. It's got his fingers in Kashmir because we know for a fact a lot of the jihadis coming in there are coming in from are being trained up by Turkey or funded by Turkey. Obviously, he has his hands in Pakistan. Obviously, they've got now this relationship of production of defense equipment, right? But what the Americans did here is interesting, and this should really get Erdogan's back up. Biden marks Armenian genocide in challenge to ally Turkey. Biden is the first US president since Ronald Reagan to use the word genocide to describe the mass killings during the final years of the Ottoman Empire. Now, this is interesting, right? What does Turkey have, right? Turkey wants to tie up with Pakistan to make fighters, jet, missiles, and access Chinese technology. And here, just remember, Turkey already has a leg up being a major supply chain for NATO aircraft, especially the F-16, and was good for the F-35s. So this is really going to have a dual impact on India's security and global security. If the American technology starts flowing to China via Pakistan, I don't think aviation technology that exists with Pakistan has much use to Turkey, and Turkey will find out because that's nothing but mothball crap from Russia. But technology from Turkey will definitely be needed to be reverse engineered by China to up their game as far as jet fighters is concerned. But let me just tell you, the jet fighters, nada, no matter what we make out with numbers, etc., I can guarantee one Rafael can take on 15 of their top jets. Right? This is what I know and this is what I've heard. I'm quite confident of that. So Turkey is making essentially a play, in my opinion, for the nuclear technology and weapons and missiles from Pakistan, while China probably as a payback is only going to get the jet aircraft engines. For India, what was the worry, right? Al-Qaeda linked Turkish group expanding base in area close to Indo-Nepal border, says reporter. So this is what I'm saying. Linked Turkish group. So Turkey is a nasty player as far as India is concerned. So we got to be very careful, right? And when you have that, just so what happened here? Turkey to help build naval vessels at Vizag shipyard. Now, with all the stuff Turkey is doing, Turkey really is not a big India's buff or strategic partner. I'm not even sure why any contract would go to them. Actually, it would be just better to go to South Korea or any of the other big naval shipbuilding countries, Japan or Korea or the United States or somebody else. Not Turkey. Price is just not it. But because I don't know where these decisions get made in the Indian geostrategic context. The Ministry of Defense actually needs to be given a quite burial, I have a feeling, folks, because it's living in some la-la land, right, where it doesn't take the bigger picture into account, and it's got this Atmanirbhar, folks, for the Indian MOD and HAL and everybody else, basically means keeping the existing employment going without creating anything really of substance for India. And even if they do create anything of substance for India, it takes forever, for years. Welcome back, folks. This is Bob, back with geopolitical news and views. We continue from the region into the other player, big player, which has been our old strategic partner, came to help in 1971. But it's about time, in my opinion, to stop looking from those tinted glasses and all that stuff. Because things are not, the relationship obviously is not as cozy as it was earlier. However, Nivedita Kapoor writes, despite divergences, build on strategic ties with Russia. The only strategic tie I really see is Russia needs India as much as vice versa, right? For Russia, its insecurities of China and Sinification of its Siberian area is of key concern to them. That's why Russia has invited us to set up this corridor, sea corridor from India to Vladivostok. That's the important part. Beyond that, I don't see any strategic convergence at all. It's only just strategic disbursement. It's essentially around China and what Russia's basic goal is to take on and humiliate the West and the United States in particular. Doesn't work for us. Okay. Here are the complications. No military alliance with China. Russia assures India, but somebody said that is a possibility, and I think it was the defense minister, right? Now here's another place where our interests don't converge. Russia, China thwarting international response to Myanmar crisis, says EU. Toll crosses 700. Russia, China sow disinformation to undermine trust in Western vaccines, says EU. And this is they sowed disinformation, and India is one of the key areas that sowed disinformation. Then we have Russia closely watching LSC development. Now, what is the word? Closely watching. Who is he to closely watch? Just remember, folks, Russia is not an honest broker. You have to remember Sergei Lavrov let us down because he guaranteed us the troop accumulation by the PLA in the Tibetan Autonomous Region was not aimed at us. How wrong it was. We let our guard down. This is the other place it doesn't converge. Quad exercise begins day after Russia rejects bloc approach. I'm glad we did that, right? Russia subtly nudges India to stay away from any US-led move to turn Quad into a NATO-like military alliance for Asia. He is playing the handmaiden for China, right? Old friends, new world, okay? Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov visit to the subcontinent. His visit to India, followed by a 2-day trip to Pakistan, underlines a readjustment of Moscow's orientation in the region. He's trying to build Pakistan up as an alternative to India. Folks, if you please do remember that. The difference between Delhi and Moscow, however, extend to a wider strategic theater beyond South Asia and Afghanistan. This was apparent in Jaishankar's use of the term Indo-Pacific and Lavrov insisting on Asia-Pacific. It is this border scenario in which Russia is drawing closer to Pakistan and India is broadening its diplomatic footprint. Right? The gulf between Delhi and Moscow, worth reading. But beneath the story of cordiality is a story of increasing differences on two key issues, visible during the joint press conference of the two ministries on Tuesday. The first is on the wider relationship with the United States and US and China. Moscow sees Washington as a belligerent actor out to contain Russian influence and punish it through sanctions. This has pushed it towards Beijing, though Mr. Lavrov emphasized in response to a question from the newspaper that a military alliance with China was not on the cards. New Delhi sees its partnership with Washington as an important security pillar and views Beijing as the core problem. India thus has chosen to remain more aligned with the US while keeping up its independent relationship with Russia, especially on defense, right? India and Russia are talking frankly, but the time-tested relationship is clearly headed for great challenges, and it is, right? And let's see what General Sani writes, a reality check with the US. I mean, this is all holdouts of the old Soviet Raj, all these ex-generals of us, right? It is unfortunate. Historical experience are illuminated. Over-dependence on the US will always have the downside of being left in the lurch when its interests have been served. Therefore, pragmatism demands that we give primacy to our national interests in the evolving relationships and not burn our bridges. Let me tell General Saab this on reverse. He said, our over-dependence on the USSR and Russia is why he's making statements like this. Folks, it works both ways. We have spent our lives over-dependent on Russia, not on the United States. For God's sake, what are we kind of talking about, right? Moscow, New Delhi in a changing world. The Lavrov visit overlapped with that former US Secretary of State and now Special Presidential Envoy for Climate Change John Kerry encapsulates the transition of Indian foreign policy. Russia's reservation about India's participation in the Quad or India's concerns about Russia's consensus with China are things that we have to deal with. Moscow must understand that the changing geopolitical dynamics of the region will find expression in India's strategic choices and will and should show. Right? Because this is what's happening. Russian FM in Pakistan, Afghanistan talks to dominant agenda, Russia to provide special military equipment to Pakistan, Russia to boost ties with Pakistan, supply military gear, Russia vows to supply military equipment to Pakistan, hold joint drills. Lavrov visit opportunity to share perspective on China and Afghanistan. This is in Pakistan, but nothing happening to India. Russia may make additional military equipment in India. Folks, here I say, and this is another one. It says Russia says in talks to make more military equipment in India. But this is what I say here, folks. Beware of Greek bearing gifts. In this time, it is beware of the Russians bearing gifts. And tomorrow, folks, I will start off by telling you about Russia and its pervasive influence on Indian foreign policy, on Indian politics, and on Indian businesses and media as a whole, folks. It'll open your eyes. Jai Hind.